Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Looking today at Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 29. And with this verse, we kind of come to a concluding verse of this subsection, where the Lord is making his final statement to the people of Jerusalem with a rather astounding declaration, command that he's going to give them. So let's go ahead and read this verse, a little bit complicated in Hebrew as we get started. Gazi nizrek vehashlihi usei al shafayim kina kimaas Adonai veyitosh et dor evrato. So gazi, so we're starting with this one right here. What do we have here? Well, this is actually with this E ending. This is one of the ones we don't remember too often, but it's actually an imperative. It's an imperative, and it's a 2FS. So that E ending is typical of a 2FS imperative here. And this is a cow, and this is from the verb gazaz, not a very common verb. So it has two zions right there, like that's a geminate verb. And this means to shear, like what you would do with sheep, to shear or to cut off the hair that you would find. So shear, it's referring to 2FS. Now why a feminine here? Well, it's probably a command that's being issued to the city of Jerusalem, the daughter of Zion, the daughter of God's people. So the people as a whole personified here. So cut off nizrek. Well, what do we have here? Well, we have a pronoun suffix, so let's take that off, and that's going to be a suffix, but it's going to be a 2FS. You can see that that's not the masculine, that's the feminine suffix. So it's a 2FS, which fits with the 2FS over here that we're going with the verb. Cut off your something. So we have this noun nezer, which takes this form with a suffix on it, nizrek. But do you recognize anything that looks a little bit familiar, like Nazarite, or something like that? Well, this is actually a nizer, is usually the idea of some sort of a dedication or consecration. Frequently, the word is translated, nizer is usually translated as crown or consecration, but it is used with the Nazarites in the sense of the symbol of their consecration is their long hair, which they have let grow. And now they're going to cut it off. Well, this is being used here almost as the equivalent of hair. So shear or cut off your hair, the symbol of your consecration, so to speak. You're supposed to be consecrated to the Lord. Time to cut that off. And what should you do with it? Vahashliki. So over here we have, this is going to be a simple vav plus another imperative. And it's going to be an imperative 2FS. This time it's going to be a hifil. So this key ending of it is this affirmative for your 2FS imperative, and it's from the verb shalak. Shalak, which I'm going to put parenthesis around it because we don't use it in the cow, and that means to throw. So throw, in the sense of throw it away, cut off your hair and cast it away, is what we would say, or cast away. And lift up. Now, once again, another imperative over here. This time it's going to be a 2FS with the same E on it, and it's a cow again from the verb nasa. And frequently used to seeing that, nasa, with a nun in the imperative form. The nun just simply drops off. It does not leave a dagesh or anything else over here. So, and lift up upon shafayim. Now, we've had this word before, shafi. It's actually written sort of like this, shafi, and I think like that, there we go, which means a barren place, a place that's very smooth and bald, so to speak. So it's the barren heights, we might say, shafayim. And lift up upon the barren heights, shafayim, kina. And this is the word that means a dirge or a lament or a lamentation or something like that, because of what God is going to do to his people, obviously. So lift up a dirge, lift up a lament. And why should you do that? Because, there's an explanatory conjunction here, because Yahweh has rejected. This is a good old perfect 3ms cal from the verb to reject. Because the Lord has rejected, and he has, well, what do we have here? We have a vav consecutive, so we have an imperfect consecutive. This is going to be actually a cow. It's going to be with the yod at the beginning, nothing at the end. It's going to be a 3ms. The subject is Yahweh, and he has from the verb natash, like this, which means to abandon or to forsake. And he has abandoned, and the nun has assimilated into this dagesh and the tate right there, what you see there. And he has abandoned and he has forsaken, direct object marker, generation, but it's in construct with this word over here, the generation of his pronoun suffix, 3ms suffix, and we have the word avre, or avra, usually written this way. And you may recognize, it's usually with a sigil over here, you may recognize ever, or avar, which means to cross over. Well, this is a noun which means that which is crossed over, that which is overflown, and overflowed, we would say. And it has the sense of anger or rage or something that's overflowing rage or anger. And it's his overflowing rage or anger. So it's the generation of his overflowing rage, because the Lord is so angry at his people because of their rejection of him. His wrath has come upon his people here. So a very sobering verse that the Lord says, and because of that, it's time to cut off any symbol of consecration and just cast it away, and it's time to turn to lamentation instead. Well, let's go ahead and hide our work here. Look at a couple of translations. First of all, in the NIV, cut off your hair and throw it away. Take up a lament on the barren heights. For the Lord has rejected and abandoned this generation that is under his wrath. It's actually in the construct state, the generation of his wrath, but that's what that means, the generation that is under his wrath. So pretty straightforward translation there. Good job with that. New Jerusalem Bible, cut off your tresses, the symbol of your consecration over here. So it's a little more than simply hair. It's something that was meant to signify a certain devotion. Cut off your tresses, throw them away. On the bare heights raise a dirge, for Yahweh has rejected, has abandoned a brood that enrages him, the generation of his wrath. So that's an interesting word right there. That's an interpretation, obviously, but a good one in this context. And then one more in the New English Bible, which again leans a little more of a developmental paraphrase. O Jerusalem. So that's not in the text, but it's speaking to her with this feminine singular suffix right there. Cut off your hair, the symbol of your dedication. So they've really explained what this nazar here. So that's a paraphrase, an explanation, but it's a pretty good one. And throw it away. Raise up a lament on the high bare places, for the Lord has spurned the generation which has roused his wrath and has abandoned them. So they've given a little more explanation right here of what's going on. But again, a very good one. What a sad place for God's people who were supposed to reflect his glory to end up as a demonstration of his wrath, simply because they wouldn't submit themselves, their own hearts to him and follow him in obedience. But that's a warning for God's people of every generation, a warning for the church today, also a warning for each one of us in our own individual lives, to keep short accounts with God, to be open to his correction, and to be willing to live for his glory and allow him to correct us when we need to be. Well, check back with us soon, as we'll be looking at the final subsection in the weekend edition of Jeremiah in our study, in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.